Coogs House. This one's going to be rough to get through, but we're going to get through it. We're going to get through it together.
You are Locked On Cougs, your daily podcast on the Houston Cougars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Cougs, the daily podcast all about your Houston Cougars. I am your host, Houston-born teacher and coach Parker Ainsworth, here to break down all things Cougs. If you're a U of H fan or just a hater going to step by, you can please be sure to subscribe down below. That we listen the Cougs into your newsfeed each and every day. We appreciate you making Locked On Cougs your first listen of the day. And welcome back to the YouTube channel. Remember, we are doing a giveaway every 250 subscribers. And I guess the next one we hit is 1,500. We're going to wear a hat like the one I've got on, Cougar Paw and Locked On and all that kind of fun stuff. It's a great hat. Trust me. So hit subscribe and comment and like below to let us know you're in the contest. I'm going to ask that if you're writing a comment below, you tell us your favorite, or just try and describe your favorite play from Reggie Chaney's career at the University of Houston, because I'm sure you've heard by this point, but if I'm the one breaking the news, I'm sorry to tell you that Reggie Chaney did pass away on August 21st, 2023. Reggie Chaney was 23 years old. I guess he turned 24 this year, 23 years old. Just graduated from University of Houston in the spring of 2023. You remember Reggie Chaney was a starter on a Final Four team, had been around the program for 3 years under Kelvin Sampson. We'll get into more on that in a moment. I'm loosely, if you look at the show notes on the side, if you're on the YouTube page here, I just have rest in peace Reggie Chaney because I have some notes here to talk through, but we're going to kind of navigate this one as it goes. I should remind you that today's show is brought to you by BetterHelp, so make sure you check out BetterHelp for all your needs. More on that later. But on Reggie, we should start off with the news broke Monday evening around 6 o'clock Central Time. The article continued to get updated, so the time changed some on us as we were checking back on that. Both Just Duarte of the Houston Chronicle, and then later confirmed by sports information directors and stuff like that from the school that, yes, Reggie Chaney did pass away at the age of 23. No cause of death has been listed or confirmed. And my loose stance on that, I guess I'll briefly mention, is that I'm not sure that matters. There's no answer to that question that makes this, for lack of a better phrase, not really suck, right? There's nothing that was going to come out of that. It was a, big shocker. Obviously, it's not like he was in ill health that any of us knew of or anything like that. But Reggie Chaney did pass away on Monday. A little bit on Reggie. We should make sure we talk about his entire career leading up to his graduation from Houston in the spring of 23. He's originally from Tulsa, Oklahoma. Lists that as his hometown. Has a big Tulsa tattoo on his forearm. Represents that city very, very well. And I remember, we'll get more into my weird connections there in a second, but when I went to the Tulsa game as a media member, getting to see that one over winter holidays last year, it was Reggie's homecoming party in a way, his last game in that city, because it was Houston's last game in Tulsa, right? His last game was a super senior. He had a large section there cheering him on. Tulsa loves Reggie. Reggie loves Tulsa. That said, he did spend some time in North Texas in Frisco in high school, but ultimately, culminated with his career ended his career at Finlay Prep. Finlay Prep's a national power program. They don't just let anyone in to play basketball at Finlay Prep, and so that's an accomplishment in and of itself. He went on to play out of high school at Arkansas under Coach Eric Musselman. And frankly, this is a very big side note, but if you're here as a Razorback fan, it has been a tough year for former Razorbacks. We don't need to get into all that right now, but if you're here as a Razorback fan, I should offer my condolences on an incredibly tough year for former Arkansas athletes. He did play at Arkansas in both his freshman and sophomore seasons. Played in all but 3 games across that span. So obviously, Mr. Reliable and Durable came into play very early for him. As a freshman, he was 13th in the SEC in blocks. Really, really impressive 2 years there. But then the world shuts down in 2020. And in 2020, Houston is scrambling to put together a roster because some guys are coming and going. And frankly, Reggie Chaney is, I think, looking for a change, needing a little bit different situation just for his personal career and growth. And that's when he gets linked up with head coach Kelvin Sampson. The way Kelvin Sampson told it on senior night this year, it sounds like there was mutual interest between him and Reggie early on. Arkansas had great things to say about him. He was the right kind of guy to come fit into this program. And it sounds like there'd been it was kind of a foregone conclusion very quickly that Sampson wanted him and that this would be a great place for Reggie. He's granted eligibility right away during COVID, which was important because in that 2020-21 season, Reggie Chaney was one of just 2 players in the entire Houston Cougar roster that played in every single game. By about middle of conference play, he became a full-time starter and was a starter all the way through the Final Four run that year. Yep. So obviously a high-impact player right away with the University of Houston. Somewhat interesting career trajectory after that. He saw his role shrink some, but it was surely never going to go away, right, as the program continued to develop, right? He first of all, I should point out the kind of work ethic that Reggie Chaney had on the floor, diving after loose balls and coming across the lane to block shots out of nowhere and big dunks on putbacks and fighting to tip every rebound. Those kinds of things will never go away from the Houston Cougar program. He is Mr. Houston Cougar basketball in so many ways with all of that. So that while his role shrunk, was never going to completely leave. In fact, it was interesting when you hear, at the end of his career as senior night, you heard other guys like Javier Francis or J1 Roberts, or even older guys like Tajay Moore or Josh Carlton comment about how much of an impact as a mentor he had as his own playing time went down. Right now, he still ended up playing, 15-ish minutes a game by the time it was all done. It's like he'd never played. And I don't mean to make it one of those stories either, but he developed the guys that were taking his minutes because that was what was better for the team. That was better for the program. That's where the program was heading. In 21-22, his, technical senior, but ended up working out as his second to last year at the University of Houston. He played in 37 games with major tendon injuries in his left hand. He played in all 37 games. And just last season, he was the 6th man of the year in the American Athletic Conference. Obviously played behind Jawan Roberts and Jarris Walker, top 10 pick in the NBA draft. And so you see those kinds of things, and you see that kind of role really, really, I don't know how to contextualize, and maybe I'm at a loss for words because of all the things and emotions going through this. And it's just that it feels silly to talk about just the basketball, I guess. But in looking at the basketball, Reggie Chaney's impact is never going away from this program. It will never go away from any program Kelvin Sampson is a part of, because Kelvin Sampson will always be able to pull out the tape, always be able to put on Reggie Chaney plays, always be able to put on a Reggie Chaney highlight reel or anything like that. Like, that is what we need out of big men in the Houston Cougar program. Coogs House, this show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Sometimes in life we're faced with tough choices, and the path forward isn't always clear. Whether or not you're dealing with decisions in your career, relationships, or anything else, therapy helps you stay connected to what you really want while you navigate your life, so you can move forward with confidence and excitement. Trusting yourself to make decisions that align with your values is like anything. The more you practice it, the easier it gets. So if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Let therapy be your map with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnCollege today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnCollege today. So I say that to say that contextualizing all of this in sports can get really difficult and really hard. We end up rooting for guys like Reggie Chaney forever. It's weird, but we cheer for them because they play for us. Like we're in the stadium at the same time, all kind of doing the same thing in a weird way. We spend years cheering for guys like Reggie, and his relentless effort specifically creates this like positive feedback loop where we're cheering and he's playing and he's getting pumped up by us and we're getting pumped up by him, and back and forth and back and forth. And when it comes to the athletes we cheer for, their wins feel like our wins, right? Their losses feel like our own as well. That what puts like the fan in the idea of fanatical, right? We cheer for our own people, like the University of Houston, unlike any other. And I'm not trying to act like or say I'm Reggie Chaney's best friend, let alone a family member that's undoubtedly hurting a whole heck of a lot right now. I'm a person that enjoyed watching him play basketball at Houston for the 3 years he was there and got really interested in his life and career because of the 3 years he was at Houston. I was excited to see what came next for him, right? He was looking to play some professional basketball in Europe and do those kinds of next step things. I was excited to see what that looked like for him. I will say that weirdly that there was a little bit of interaction here and there I did have with Reggie. As you all know, I'm a teacher by day and do this stuff by night to get to talk about the Cougs with you. But I did get to go to a handful of games, a few games last year as a media member. And for whatever reason, it just worked out that Reggie Chaney was the podium or at the podium and post game for each of those few games. This is a guy that is supposed to represent the program. He is Houston Cougar basketball through and through in every way. And so, yes, as anyone will point out, he was more professional than professionals in every sense. I mean, people that get paid to play basketball for a living, he was more polite, cordial, kind, helpful, even funny in those post-game press conferences, the few times that I got to talk to him in those. And again, it's just weird that overlapped because that's not the same couple guys every game, but he was one of the couple that was there every time for me. This is a guy that's supposed to represent the program. This guy that's supposed to be there next to Kelvin Sampson. And all of our connections as fans, though, will run deeper than that. We all celebrated his wins with the Houston Cougars, and we all felt sorrow in those Coug losses. We screamed at his monster blocks and got excited and high-fived strangers in the stands and things like that on his dunks. We all prayed he was okay when he'd recklessly dive after a loose ball. He'd leap into the stands and everyone would gasp to make sure, is Reggie okay? And of course he was. He's Reggie Chaney. He was always going to fight through those kinds of things. Again, he could tear his hand and play a 37-game season. That connection where we're feeling those emotions with him is one we all had. And it's why this is so painful. It's painful for all of us, and that's okay. It's okay for that to hurt and be painful, because unlike a big win in his hometown in Tulsa last winter, unlike losing in an upset in the Sweet 16 to Miami or whatever, this is more painful. This as high end as those two emotions were at both ends of the spectrum, this is higher. And I think one thing I want to make sure everyone is understanding of is, like, it's okay for that to hurt. It's not weird for it to hurt because all you did was watch Reggie Chaney on TV, or it's not weird for that to hurt because he was a guy that played here for 3 years and you've been a Cougar fan for 60 years. Like, it's okay for that to hurt. Let it hurt. It's all right. He was a special kid, a very special kid. And I think the interesting thing in looking at him being a special kid is everyone who talked about him and knew him more personally than I would say that. I pulled out some Sampson quotes I thought that were particularly interesting because head coach Kelvin Sampson had only glowing things to say about him. Kelvin Sampson can be sure with words and a lot of people, but he was not sure with metaphors on Reggie. So I pulled a couple quotes from that. I will say, and they've posted it online and stuff like that. And I think I retweeted it, but it's all over the place. The word said by Sampson, his teammates, Reggie's teammates, even play-by-play announcers and things like that from his senior night. They did like a 4 or 5 minute video for senior night. It's it's a little tear jerky. I'm trying not to right now, I promise. It's a little tear jerky to watch that now, right? It was a little tear jerky, frankly, in at the end of the season because of what he meant to this program and how special a class of seniors he and Marcus and also Darius Bowser were for the program. But there's a different level to some of the things that those guys said that were so special right now. So some of the quotes I pulled from Sampson that were from the video and some were not. He said at one point, "Reggie, you're my security blanket." And he would later continue that if there's a chill in the air, it's good to know you got that blanket there that can help me. Again, that's Sampson speaking of his backup big man. I don't think every backup big man gets talked about like that. When talking about the way he plays, Sampson said that the attitude never changes. He's a tough kid that plays hard. If I told Reggie to run through a brick wall, he'd go, "Coach, can I get a running start?" And if I asked him 2 months from now, he'd give you the same answer. That's just who Reggie is. Coach would later say he has no ego. He makes a lot of winning plays. The uneducated figure that if you're not scoring, you're not doing a whole lot, right? Reggie impacts the game in ways that don't stand out on a stat sheet. I think that anyone who watched more than 10 minutes of Houston Cougar basketball can attest the exact same thing. Duarte found this quote. I couldn't find the video, but Joe Duarte had this quote that Kelvin Sampson, when talking about the little convenience store trays and the trays at the counter in the convenience store with nickels and dimes and pennies in or whatever, he said, "Reggie's like that penny. When you need him, he's there." I thought that was an interesting metaphor because that is a very useful thing all the time to just have there whenever you need it. It's always there. He also said, this is Sampson again, still talking. He said, "Reggie's been everything we asked for and more. Reggie's a winner. He's tough. He plays an edge. He's respected. Reggie has no ego." You're noticing a theme here. And then one of the more tear-jerky things on a senior night speech from players and coaches is that there's a finality to it. It's a finality to the career, we think, at the time. And unfortunately, there's a different echo to those words right now. And so I think the last thing Sampson said, if I remember correctly, from that senior night video is, "I'm going to miss Reggie. He's the one I counted on." That's a tough one. But I think that's the way we're all feeling today. So we're all missing Reggie. He's the one we all counted on for that rebound, that loose ball, that exciting play, the thing that got us up out of our seat to high-five the stranger sitting next to us, right? Following the Sweet 16 loss, Reggie's own words, which are a little weird to watch given the circumstances, I think are also telling us to who he is. Reggie commented to, I think it was KHOU, but I might have the news company wrong enough, so I'm sorry. But he said that the loss isn't the biggest thing. It's not seeing these guys every day, not playing with these guys ever again, not putting that Houston jersey on ever again. And again, that's one of those moments where like things were about the team, the program, the guys. That's what it was about for Reggie. It wasn't about his stats. It was about, throwing down an alley-oop and then going and high-fiving Jamal Shed for throwing it, right? It's about getting a great rebound and throwing it to Jarris Walker and watching the dude work. It was about kicking out DeMarcus Sasser and celebrating with him for the made three afterwards. It was about the other guys in so many ways for Reggie, and that's just so admirable and metaphoric for the rest of life. So I love basketball, man. Coogs House, it is football season. It's kicking off very, very soon, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to win all season long because right now, when you bet on Super Bowl winner, you get bonus bets back every time that team wins in the regular season. Just pick any team to win the Super Bowl and get bonus bets back for every single victory. Right now, you can go with the Kansas City Chiefs at plus 600, the Philadelphia Eagles at plus 800 with our Houstonian Jalen Hurts playing quarterback. Channel View Zone, I guess I should say. What I'm pointing out there with that is every time then the Chiefs or Eagles win a football game, you can get a bonus bet back. You can spend your bonus bets on spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and start earning bonus bets with America's #1 sportsbook. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. I think the interesting and lasting memory I'm going to have with Reggie, however, it might not really have anything to do with basketball. Lasting memory I've got of Reggie because it was one of the cooler things I think that happened last year. And for folks who've been listening to this show for a long time, this show only started last October. It's less than a year old. And thank you all for listening and making it grow really quickly and all that. But it's the first time we've had something like this happen, right? But my lasting memory of the time we've had Reggie Chaney as the show has been going on and covering Houston more closely than just a fan of the program, is there's a picture at graduation time in the spring, and he's standing with Kelvin Sampson, the guy who brought him to Houston, and he's standing there, and Sampson is beaming. I mean, he is so proud. And Reggie Chaney has all of his American Athletic Conference rings on, which is impressive. And he's got a Final Four one on, I think, too, and like a U of H one. Like he's got a bunch of his bling on to celebrate the things he's accomplished as a person that played basketball at the University of Houston. But his stole, right? So at graduation, the scarf you wear, his stole didn't say student athlete, didn't say Cougar basketball. It didn't say any of that. It read first generation, as in first generation of his family to graduate from college. All that work, all the effort, the scrappiness, the toughness, it was all on the basketball floor, but it also played out into something so much more important. His dedication to his craft had led to something that could change his life, his family's life, his siblings, his future children. That part, while playing professionally in Greece very soon was part of the plan. That part of his life was all just starting. And I think that's one of the things that makes this as sad as anything else, frankly, is he had all these intangible tools, Reggie did. And all of that had earned him tangible ones, right? To continue to do great things. The laundry list of great things he was bound to accomplish got cut so short. Rest in peace, Reggie. Thank you for your time at Houston. Thank you for your impact on the program we all love. Thank you for your inspiration to so many future stories on Houston's campus and beyond. Go Cougs.